everybody. We have another episode of Talk Data to Me with a special partner, HG Insights. Head of Business Development is on the line with us today, Don Wynn. Don, welcome.
Hey, John. Great to be with you. Appreciate the forum.
Awesome. Well, we'll jump right in. We've got some questions for you today, and should be pretty easy for you to answer, but the audience will learn a lot about you guys today. I think it'll provide tremendous value. So can you just give us a little background on HG's, when you guys were founded, give us a bit of company history, some stuff like that.
Yeah, so we've been in business for a decade, really commercially active since about 2014. Our founder, Craig Harris, based out in beautiful Santa Barbara, California, owned a previous data company. He sold that, and so he closed up one business on a Friday and opened up HG on a Monday with the same employee base. And he had this sort of idea in his mind about how to take some of the big data skills he had mastered in his previous company and apply them to really the B2B market. He'd historically been in consumer data, and ultimately apply those skill sets towards a much larger data set and ultimately the creation of what we would call the technographics business. So as I said, we're based in beautiful Santa Barbara, California. We've got 100 employees. We've got a sales office in London based on an acquisition we did a year and a half ago. And again, we are a venture-backed organization.
Okay. Can you tell us a little bit about the customers you serve and what that ideal customer profile looks like for you?
Yeah, it's a great question, and we've really that ideal customer profile existed before we knew to call it an ideal customer profile, right? So it's been in place, and we really focus on the larger segment within the IT vendor community. I'm not allowed to name names in the customer base, but if you were to think of the largest independent software vendors out there globally, they are all customers. And we have moved, I would say, down market into what we would call the mid-market space. So typically these are IT vendors. They have a global footprint. They typically have a portfolio of products that they are taking to market. And in our business, based on the sort of the global data set that we bring to bear for them, tends to match quite nicely. We've moved into what we again would call the mid-market, 150 or 100, $250 million tech vendors. They tend to gravitate towards a little bit different product line than our core sort of big data applications. But those folks have found value in a more turnkey approach to our technographic data set.
Wonderful. Are there specific geographic locations where you focus your business development? And then for the database itself, do you have specific geographic locations that you focus on providing data for?
Yeah, great question. So commercially, we're active out of our Santa Barbara headquarters and again our sales office in London, and we sort of pass the book. By definition, most of our customers are global in nature, and so we have support for say an Oracle. We have a support for their operations over in Western Europe and the UK, and then right on down into the US. So that's where we're commercially active. We do quite a bit of work in Asia Pacific and APAC, but again, those are typically arms of larger global ISVs who are looking for a geographic centric solution within APAC. And the data set itself, it's global in nature. The way we acquire the data set really does no barrier to geographies, and we'll get into that in a little bit. And I think that's really one of our primary points of differentiation is our ability to track global technology installations, again, at a global level and not simply look at the US instance of a corporation.
So I have a question about how many technologies you're currently tracking, and if a customer doesn't see a technology that they need that you track, how can they make a request for that technology to be tracked?
Right. So we track today just over 10,000 technology products from about 6,000 vendors. Again, on a global basis, we don't claim to track every technology there is out there. And frankly, what you referenced in terms of customers coming to us to identify technologies that we may not currently track, it's very easy for us to do based on the way we build out our coverage. And so customer A will recommend or ask for us to develop coverage on vendor B, and they'll simply identify the vendor and the product. We will run that through a query process to identify if we have the raw coverage from which to subsequently build the algorithms to identify the specific installations. It can take us about a month to do that from start to finish, but it's a very commonplace request for us. And we probably add about 100 products a month from current customers who are looking for expanded coverage or a niche product that has suddenly appeared on their radar.
Okay. So I wanted to learn a little bit more about your commercial process. Not too deep, but do you charge by the number of technologies tracked, or the number of records enriched, or the number of net new accounts that you provide? Like, what's going to drive the commercials?
So there are, in our direct sales organization, we're licensing data through our platform, right? And that is a seat-based model. However, obviously through our integration with Ringlead, right, that's independent of our user interface. And so really it's a formula based on the volume of data that a potential joint customer would want to take advantage of. So how many records are being enriched is really the dynamic there. And we have a series of tiered pricing where there's economies of scale inherent in broader licensing. But we want to focus again on sort of the common denominator through Ringlead, which is an underlying customer record, and then how much data are we supplying / enriching to that particular company or contact record.
Perfect. And do you consider you guys data 100% B2B, or is there any sort of
exclusively B2B? There's no B2C in there whatsoever by design.
Okay. Now we know you can do enrichment, so you do have enrichment. Do you ever provide net new lists of companies that supply certain technologies?
Absolutely. That is part and parcel our business as well. So we play in the enrichment game, but a lot of our work as well is helping customers develop ideal customer profiles and doing the discovery outside of the companies that may be in their primary database. And saying, well, here's 1,000 companies that share the attributes of your top customers. This is what they're running in their tech stack, and these are folks you should absolutely be reaching out to.
Yeah, I think that brings up a really good point that's going to be helpful for all the listeners. Is most of us know we need to track technologies, right? But then we go into which technology should we track? And for me, I'll just give an example. I know it's important to know the marketing automation stack and the CRM stack of a company. But, if we ran a deeper analysis on my customer base, I'm guessing you could tell me that there's other technologies in the mix at those companies that are our buyers that may show a broader vision of, hey, if a customer has these 7 technologies, yours is likely to be next because they're uniform across the base. So if you do this ideal customer analysis, are you helping companies understand what technologies they should track? And is that some sort of service that you charge for, or it's like a part of your general onboarding or sales process? Can you give us some details into that?
Yeah, that's really part of the service, right? Nobody knows our data as well as we know our data. And so, certainly we have a team, what we would call our data as a service folks. A lot of that is automated, but we also have a support team that's going to work with customers and understand what is the build out of a tech stack, maybe above and beyond the obvious ones that are indicative of a company that's engaging in digital transformation, of a company that's moving to the cloud, of a company that's clearly spending money to take their strategic tech stack to the next level. So it's very easy to match up a literal vendor product relationship. They're running Marketo, they're running Pardot, they're running Oracle Marketing Cloud. But what's the context behind that? How long have they had those products? Are they just deploying those products? Or have they been a long-standing customer of those products? So there's interpretation that we can bring to bear through our services organization, and we kind of make that part of the package. Working with large enterprises, that white glove approach works, and that waterfalls right on down into our mid-market customers.
That's wonderful. How many? It sounds like you have about 10,000 technologies you're tracking. How many businesses are you tracking technologies on?
Multiple million.
Okay.
Right, on a global basis. The number is fluid. It grows month over month. But if you look at the companies, in this case, the buy side, right, the consumers, the institutional consumers of technology, there's a data set that we would consider about 3.5 million that are really sort of the likely suspects, the likely candidates for traditional B2B technology sales.
Okay. When you do provide a full append, do you know about how many different attributes on a company you can provide? And we know how many technologies you can track and how many companies you're tracking, but what other attributes are you providing in terms of number of attributes?
Yeah, the foundational attributes that we bring to bear, because tech install, in the absence of understanding where the company is or what industry they're in, it lacks context. So in addition to enriching a record with the vendors and products they use and the duration for which they've used those products and the intensity of consumption, we're also providing basic firmographic information in terms of revenue, employee count, location, and industry.
That's very helpful. I mean, that can even help consolidate other data options that, instead of having to use multiple. Do you, actually, this is a really important one. Tell me about your ability to track technology inside the firewall, SaaS, cloud, and publicly facing technologies.
Yeah, so our data acquisition and management and distribution process is based on a document-driven approach. And in effect, what we've done is over the last 7 or 8 years, ingested about 4 billion with a B documents. A document can be a job posting, a press release, a white paper, an anonymized resume. We don't do any PII, so everything is anonymized. We generically refer to those as documents, and we license most of those documents from upstream aggregators and providers, and we run that through a proprietary curation process that effectively mines the documents for references to customers, vendors, and products, right? So in a completely legitimate methodology, we are mining documents to look for references to the fact that customer A is using, vendor B and product C. So the example is Procter & Gamble in Cincinnati, Ohio, puts out a job posting for a senior network engineer. The network engineer has to have expertise in Cisco 6500 switch methodology and FireEye security software. We mine that document, we unearth the references to those products. And what that means is we go behind that firewall. We look at the strategic tech stack, which would also include their SaaS applications and any implementations they have in the cloud. In addition, we can also go and look and sort of reverse engineer the JavaScript on a publicly facing corporate website and understand what are they using for analytics, what are they using for e-commerce, what are they using for marketing automation. So we've got a comprehensive approach to sort of data ingest and distribution that goes both inside and outside the firewall.
So would you say that that's really your main competitive advantage against other technology providers, or do you have other, competitive advantages? That seems like a huge one. I mean,
yeah,
really comprehensive.
There are folks out there, good firms that are out there. All they're doing is crawling corporate websites and identifying ad tech, right? Mm-hmm. And if all you care about is ad tech, they're a great option for you. But for our folks, our customers who are looking, most of whom provide cloud-based SaaS or on-premise software solutions, they need to understand what that tech footprint looks like back inside the firewall. So that is absolutely sort of where we position ourselves as sort of this comprehensive provider of the full stack.
Nice. Have you found that there are certain technologies that are more popular than the rest that customers are asking about?
Yeah, we've done a lot of work coming out of the COVID reality and around digital transformation. We had done a little case study around the uptake of SAP HANA cloud-based versus on-prem instances of that. Cloud is obviously, a great area of interest because so much technology is now being consumed through the cloud. But interestingly enough, our vendor customers are also looking for products from competitors that are being discontinued, things of that nature. What are products that are being sunsetted? So there's this look forward. What are people doing in the cloud? Who's winning the cloud battle? But we also have sort of these niche esoteric asks that, vendor A is sunsetting, product B. Where are they installed? Because we have a competitive product.
Yeah.
To a conquest campaign.
That's amazing. I'm formulating so many ways that you could build this type of data into your scoring models and your segmentation for campaigns and assignment rules and strategy for who your target account should be.
Right.
But it's going a lot deeper now. It sounds like it's more than you have more than just the technology. You can tell me if they're having a hiring influx or, it sounds like you even have some sort of information on when budgets spike for tech spend. So I think that's really unique and some things that we didn't really know that you guys did. Now, back to the commercials, right?
Yeah.
What's the best way to get started? Is there a best practice or do you have any freemium offerings or trials that you help, try before you buy or, just give us your process for onboarding a new prospective client?
Yeah, typically data samples are part of the sales process. To be clear, there's a lot of data vendors out there. We have, I think, a well thought of brand in the marketplace, but data needs to be tested. Does it meet the criteria for acceptance? And what's acceptable for customer A might not be the right fit for customer B because we may not track an area of technology, for example, that's important to them. So data testing is really part and parcel of it. Not only the quality and usefulness of the data, but the integration of that data. How do they want to consume it? Do they want to go through an enrichment platform? What does that look like? What's the frequency with which that data needs to be enriched and updated? So we are always open to, opening the kimono, as I like to say, on our data, giving people a sample of data, letting them act on it, and let them sort of quantify the results before they make an investment, not just in the data, but in the workflow and the opportunity costs inherent, in other projects. This is important stuff, but people have to have a confidence level to move forward typically, and we support that.
Well, that makes it a lot easier, and flexibility in the buying cycle is not always there, and so it's wonderful to know that you guys make it easy to try and buy, and you have a lot of flexibility about how the data can be delivered. And you guys have built an amazing brand. You pretty much everybody who knows that they need tech install data that I've worked with, they really know who you guys are and trust and believe in that information. And so, Don, I really want to thank you for joining us today and giving us so much really valuable information. Is there anything else that you'd like to tell the audience before we wrap up here?
Yeah, just, I'm wishing everybody best coming out of COVID. We're seeing people kind of come back to the table and get back to business, and a lot of activity now that the traditional on-prem sort of engagement and trade show world has ended. And we're absolutely on board to support those folks and help them hit those numbers that haven't shrunk despite the COVID situation.
Awesome. Well, we really appreciate your time today, and thank you for all the knowledge.
Thanks, John. I appreciate the forum.
All right, cool. So we did it.
All right.
Now we'll take the editor. He'll turn around a full copy pretty quickly, and then he usually picks three sections out of there. So if you want to listen to that and tell us which three you have in mind, I really think the part about behind the firewall needs to be there. I also want the section on ideal customer profile analysis, because I just think that's such a heavy topic with our audience. And I think that's probably the webinar I want to host you guys on as well. And maybe we can go through an exercise, in the next 2-3 months of working together to analyze Ringleads data so that we can showcase how, it's like 700, 800 accounts. Like to utilize, even if we don't use that information, I'd like to buy some data from you, Don, as well. At some point.
Yeah. Well, let's see what you need. You guys are a partner. I mean,
what I'd like to do is I'd like to work with somebody on your team to show how you would identify ideal customer profiles on a set of account data with a new prospective customer, and then we will showcase that in a webinar. So we can show like before, after, hey, we found out this, and this, and now those things are not only driving Ringlead scoring models, but I'll also show them being incorporated in our assignment rules. And I think that can be really powerful messaging to the audience.
Happy to do it. And, if you need some stuff with your data, we'll talk about it. I'm not out here to try to sell you stuff, partnership, and ultimately if you're successful, we're successful. So
yeah, I just want to promote the use case at a technical level. And I think that's, our audience is so highly technical that they want to see at least some sort of visuals. So I'm thinking about adding you guys and maybe an intent provider and maybe a contact provider, because ideal customer profile is not just about the company, it's also about the personas.
That's the persona that is, who is your buyer. Just don't bring Zoom Info and Bombora onto the same stage.
Yeah, I won't. You help me define which ones you play friendly with, because I think
you play friendly with everybody. Right?
Yeah.
Bombora is suing Zoom Info, so I don't think you want to bring.
Really?
Them. Oh yeah, you didn't see that.
No.
Yeah.
I believe it.
It just got announced last week, right after the.
Oh, why wouldn't they? They just got $16 billion.
Pockets are a little deeper now.
Awesome.
Just the billion that Carlyle had in play. So yeah, those two don't play nice. We play nice with everybody. We're enough of a niche provider. There are certain folks.
And they'll all rely on you at some point. Like when Zoom's front end stuff won't work right for a high end customer, who are they going to come knocking on, to get the data, right? So
so we coexist with Zoom Info in dozens and dozens and dozens of accounts, because they're feeding the sales guys with contact information, and we're building their total addressable market and their ICP and supporting their ABM stuff. And so we're the longer we go on, the more we're differentiating in terms of who we support within the enterprise. So it used to be, kind of dodgy, but, it's a lot of mutual coexistence, and in some cases even, co-opetition.
Great. Well, I thank you very much for working with
John,
me on this today.
We'll
get some content that'll make it easier for our blog posts, and then we'll get our thought leadership webinar scheduled where we can, get some registered leads and try to get 500-600 leads that we can send over in a list for you guys. So that's the next goal, all right?
Yep. You got it.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, it's great. I appreciate how proactive you guys were doing this. And I'm kind of scrambling with the close of the quarter, but, I'm on this stuff, I want to get, the traction and get some momentum so I can more, I've rolled this out to a handful of the more senior reps who get it, but it's sort of an institutional rollout. I'd like to be a little farther along, share the internal collateral, things like that. But we're we're getting there. This is a good step, and I appreciate you guys sort of grabbing.
Yeah, Chris Rulig is almost going to launch our partner portal too. We're going to load a bunch of content in there and decks, and we'll get you a license so that you can have a centralized location for some collateral, and then we want to get a battle sheet for you guys to send to the sales team so that when they hear about any sort of technographic opportunities, you guys are the first ones they pitch, and they have reasons why. Right now it's just, hey, HG, but why? The why is important.
Right. Got it. No problem.
All right, Don. Have a wonderful day.
Yeah, you too, John. Thanks again.
Thank you. Bye-bye.